So we'll call the meeting to order and start with a salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, any correspondence?
Yes.
You know.
And we received a note from current teacher, first grade teacher Megan Francesco.
You want to put on your mic?
Providing an update on her education status and thanking the board for supporting the system.
We don't get much correspondence. I want to make sure people are here.
Did you hear any of that? No. We received a note from a current teacher advising the board about the status of her continuing education and thanking us for support. Thank you for being so supportive of me and of my goals in furthering my professional education. Sincerely, Megan Francesco.
Wonderful.
That's it.
Thank you. Marcia, any public comment? No public comment. Fine. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda was sent out in advance of the meeting. Does anyone have anything that they would like to extract? See none, can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Reports, PTO update. Do we have anyone from PTO? No? We are moving. Superintendent, Bob, you are up.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if this is on or not. Does that sound like it's on?
Yep.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Board of Education meeting. And I'd like to welcome our world language teachers tonight from Beecher Road, and they'll be presenting in a little while. I'd also like to thank and welcome administrators and teachers from Amity Middle School at Bethany campus for being here and being present for the presentation as well, as long as some other staff members and members in the community. Our last Board of Education meeting was the night before the first day of staff and first teachers in their contractual start of the year. And since that point, we've had a very, very successful opening of school, a very busy time. We've had a great professional development week, activities for all staff, both certified and non-certified. We've had transition activities for kindergarten, and of course, we've had the first days of school for all students. I must say that in walking around the school and seeing the activities just prior to and the first days of school, our faculty and staff were extremely well prepared. Parents were very attentive to important routines and safety protocols. And most importantly, our students have hit the ground running. And they're in their classrooms and learning is taking place, obviously, and to a great extent. I'd also like to mention that standardized test scores, both Smarter Balance and CMT Grade 5 Science, have been received. Very impressive scores and great growth are noted. This will be shared in more detail a little bit later in our meeting by Assistant Principal Ela Sherman. And just a reminder from my perspective and our district's perspective that standardized testing is only one measure, and we value a very balanced approach to assessing student growth qualitatively and quantitatively. I'd like to bring congratulations to Chris Rose and Jill Calamonico, both staff members here at Beecher, for being invited and presented a session on the primary mental health project at the Connecticut State Department of Education's back to school meeting for special education administrators. This was on September 14th in Cromwell. Chris and Jill shared their school-based classroom work, family yoga practices and family resource team practices at this particular presentation, and it was very well received, and congratulations to them for being selected to bring this to the entire state's department. Beecher Road School, by the way, has been a participant in this kind of a program for the past 20 years. I'd also like to bring congratulations to Maria De Palma, our preschool teacher. Her and her preschool staff have received word that they have maintained their NIAC accreditation for preschool, and so that's good news as we continue to move forward. More congratulations to offer tonight goes to our Beecher Road School band. Some of you saw them playing at the New Britain Bees game this past weekend. And although the Somerset Patriots did win the game, Both teams, both New Britain and Somerset teams and the crowd were treated to a rousing rendition of the national anthem played by our talented students. There's a picture I can send around to you folks. And they, of course, they're very proud. I'm sure some of you were there or some of you knew about this. This would not be possible without parents supporting their children and bringing them to the game, being there, and the transportation part of that, and also to Mr. Letch, our band director, for arranging all this. So congratulations to our fabulous band. I think our assistant principal was also there to enjoy the game. Is that right?
I sure was.
I had to say I got a photo sent to me on the weekend. I was not there, but she was. So speaking of music, many of you know that Beecher many years ago was granted a chapter in the Tri-M Music Honor Society. This is a student-run organization specifically for our 6th grade music students. The purpose of this honor society is to strengthen our music program, help our members reach their full musical potential, encourage our students to work together, teamwork, also to help them focus their attention on providing community service, which they do when they do parades in town on special events and things like that. So I just want you to know that this honor society is alive and well. It is guided by Mr. Letch, our band director, and we also would like to mention and congratulate the new executive members to this 6th grade organization. The students themselves elected President Sam Adanasio, Vice President Ankel Bahel. I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. Sorry. Thank you. Secretary Zoe Fleischman, Treasurer David Chow, and Historian Alexandra Kravitz. I think there's some similarity in names in this room. Oh, where is she?
Yeah, she's over there.
Okay, take a bow. Stand up and take a bow. So this is a student-run organization, and congratulations to all of them for their leadership and for what's in store for them ahead in this 6th grade year. I'd like to thank Gina and Lisa, our principal and assistant principal, for joining me at the selectmen's meeting on Wednesday night. This was a great opportunity for our selectmen to see and experience other leaders besides myself, to hear about what's going on at the school and to hear about our recent student achievement results and other activities. So thank you, Gina and Lisa. I think that was beneficial for the selectmen for sure. The next superintendent parent update will be coming out this weekend, so be looking for that. And on that update, you will be seeing the beautiful pictures of all of the board members and their little bios on there. So thank you, board members, for being willing to go with the flow on that, and that's good. We were recently informed by the United States Department of Education that Beecher Road School will participate in the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Process, testing this year. This is a test, and it will be actually the 4th grade that will be participating in this. This is something that is randomly selected. When I was in Granby, this happened probably 2 or 3 times during my tenure there. This is commonly referred, the NAEP test is commonly referred to as the nation's report card. And it is the largest, nationally representative continuous assessment of what our kids know and what they can do in various subject areas. So this is usually a 1-day test. It will be happening in February, and again, it's just for our 4th grade. It's very low key. There's no prep. Educator guests come in to actually administer the test, and more information will be coming to us in the near future on this. So that's, again, in February, the NAEP test. There will be a bus safety drill in October, and also we'll be having a bus driver appreciation on Friday, October 21st, which we do every year. At that particular appreciation this year, we're going to have a special opportunity to honor Frank Avini, who was a driver for us for 49 years. So Frank has indicated, along with his wife, that they can be there, so we're looking forward to honoring Frank for his unbelievable length of service to Beecher Road School in Woodbridge. My entry plan activities continue. I'm getting to know the district and the school and people and strengths and areas of interest each day more and more. I'll also be holding some what I call listen and learn sessions for parents on September 28th and October 13th. These will be attached to the PTO meetings. The September 28th one is at 3:30 and the October 13th one is at 9:30 in the morning. I will be providing this information on my parent update over the weekend, and it'll be also posted on the superintendent's page on our website. we're working very hard.
I have one
Yes,
question.
please.
So I know you've put some things up on the website. Have you sent that in one of your updates that there's, either a link or said, if you're interested in kind of some background about you and some other things that you can go to the website for that?
Yes, so we've put a bio there. Actually, it was really the statement that the vice chair gave the day that I was voted in. So there's that on there. There's the entry plan is on the website, and this information will be there as well.
And do parents and community members, but do parents know, has it been in one of the updates?
It will be in the
In the
update
next
this
one?
weekend.
Okay, great.
This
Okay,
weekend.
excellent. I just wanted to make sure parents knew
Yes.
if they wanted to go get some background. Thank you.
Sure. We have the workings going on of 3 after-school clubs for grades 4 through 6 coming up. We're looking at a poetry club, robotics Lego club, and a math Olympiad. We are working hard to try to solidify all the plans for those, and we'll get information out to parents soon on those. I had an opportunity today to attend a Quinnipiac Valley Health District community conversation. I'm only bringing that up because, it was one of those things where I wasn't sure if I was going to attend or not because it was new to me, but I'm glad I went. It was an opportunity that brought together 4 towns, obviously Woodbridge, Bethany, Hamden, and North Haven. And the theme was creating healthy communities. And there was a lot of conversation around how can we help to increase access to health care, mental health access, creating safe communities. There was a lot of data shared. And it really showed me that QVHD is really an opportunity for us as a resource going forward. So they provide great service to us when we're looking for someone to come in and help us, look at the building. Is everything healthy during our tools for schools and other kinds of times? But this was another opportunity to see them as a resource. So that was a very beneficial thing to go to. Laptop replacement for faculty members is starting here at Beecher. So we're starting with the older laptops, obviously, and it's a 2-year replacement process, and so that is starting in the next few weeks. So some faculty members will be very excited to receive a new laptop, and some will have to be a little patient and wait till next year. We're obviously starting with the oldest laptops first. We have recently had some of our building contractors, AKF, mechanical people, control people from our building project come in and do what's called commissioning the system. We've been making final adjustments to all of the project work that's been done. We're really working on maximizing comfort, such as temperatures and humidity. This work continues, and we hope that this will bring to a conclusion the project in the very near future. And that ends my superintendent's report.
Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay.
At this point, I'll turn it over to Gina, our principal.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to start with a few thank yous. We did kick the year off. The PTO is not here, but with our ice cream social. So if anybody's got to see my principal's message, there is quite a lovely photo of Bob enjoying his ice cream, like a large scoop of chocolate, I believe. So, but a few thank yous because it does take both the faculty and the PTO to get this to be such a successful event. So we had lots of staff there. We had big brothers and sisters helping to serve. We had some former members of our staff, board members, and so forth. So thanks to the PTO for arranging that. It is a time-honored tradition around here to kick the school year off. We also have completed all 3 of our open houses. Everybody was able to have an opportunity to hear from Bob and myself an extended day so that they could learn a little bit about what resources are provided. If you had multiple children, you heard us repeat that same information multiple times. But we had large crowds, and then, again, what the night is about, going down, meet your child's teacher. There were opportunities for some parents to participate in what a morning meeting would look like. There was an opportunity, I walked in on one 5th grade class, and the teacher was demonstrating what does multiplication look like now? This is what it looked like before, what does it look like now? And he promised that their confused faces are not the faces of their children. So lots of opportunities just to engage and see what it's like to be a student here for the day. So we thank all of the faculty and all the parents that attended to help kick that off. speaking of kicking off, again, in my principal's message, if you looked, there was mention of what is called a CARES assembly. CARES is cooperation, assertion, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. We realized last year in our send-off to Dr. Stella that we could all fit into the South Gym. So we are going to hold a school-wide, the first of 3. This one will be the entire school to kick off CARES. It's just a way for us to come together as a community, engage in a little bit of learning, a little bit of fun, and then we plan 2 more throughout the course of the year. At each one will be half the school, and we'll change up which grades go together. So it'll be able to be a little more interactive. But we look forward to coming together as a community. It's something that, as a whole, difficult to do due to space, but knowing that we can all fit at least one time, we'll all be in the South Gym. You received a little, please have your child wear their color. So if you didn't, please go back and look at that message. It says what color your grade should wear for the day. Also, we have started our universal screen. So you heard us talk about that we adopted a universal screen last year. And that's really just a temperature check 3 times a year. Takes about 30 minutes. It's in math and language arts for everybody except kindergarten. Kindergarten does not take the assessment in the fall. They start in January. And it has begun just today for grades. It's over the next 2 weeks. So they should complete that in their classroom. We have one group coming to the library to do so. And they will do that on iPads. And that will begin, and it'll go for the next week and a half. Question?
What's this one called?
This is Star.
This is.
This is Star.
That's what I thought.
I'm sorry.
I said, no, not Star.
Star is the brand name, so through a company called Renaissance Learning. The universal screen is what the tool is. It's a universal screen.
So I know in the high school and middle school that you can get that data. Are we providing this, pushing this out to the parents during the year, or is it?
We are not pushing it out in general. It is internal. If someone wants to know what the score is, they certainly can ask. I don't know how much meaning it would have for a parent, as we are looking at it as a big picture. It's only one piece of the puzzle for us. Certainly we would share what the scale score for a student is. And we could explain what that means to them. It's, again, one piece in a large picture of our assessment matrix.
But my understanding, the goal is this is a K through 12 similar assessment,
Yes.
right? And it's more longitudinal, or you can sort of track progression from here to the middle school to the high school.
So we are working on that transition piece on how to share our information. I'll go back. Connecticut Mastery Test, we used to give a paper copy. This is the result and hand it off. We're working to be more efficient and still comply with some data privacy also. So we're working on that moving forward. But yes, we can look at students all the way up now that we have this tool. And it is something that all BOA districts are using.
I was just going to say, this is one of those things you might remember that all BOA districts are now on board with this, so it's all 4 districts.
So again, it is one, because it's bigger picture, we use our internal assessments to go a little bit deeper. This helps us look across, longitudinally, yes, but look across the whole school as well. So we'll continue to use that. You heard Bob mention that the last time we were here, we were getting ready to kick off our professional development for staff before the children came back. We had a very successful 2 days, and then the 3rd day, teachers were in, setting up the rooms, and we were able to have an opportunity at that time to share some of our summer curriculum work. And we also set our themes for the year, both in math and language arts. And we've already started work with our consultants from Columbia and our consultants from ACES with some specific teachers and some grade level teams. And that work will continue throughout the year, and we'll keep you updated as far as that goes as we move through workshop with reading and writing and through math. And that's my update for tonight, unless there's some other questions.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
I would just like to mention that the enrollment figures are in the board package, so that is there provided for you every month. We are pretty close in just about every class to what our class size guidelines are. There's a few classes that have crept over by 1 or so, but we believe that everything right now is appropriate in terms of instruction being able to be delivered. And our numbers at 776 in the building are a little shy of what was projected, but that was about what it was last year. And during the course of the year, as we've talked about before, enrollment began to increase during the year. So we'll see how that plays out as the year unfolds. I'd like to, at this time, introduce Stephanie Goldberg and Emily Roberts. And as they come up, I just want to say, first of all, thank you to them because they've spent quite a bit of time putting this presentation together and updating this for us this evening. And also, I want to mention that having seen world language in a number of venues and places, including my previous district, and seeing their classrooms, I'm just very, very excited about what they're doing with world language here at Beecher. You can usually tell a lot about world language and its effectiveness by the percentage of time that students are actually speaking the language in the class. How much time is it in Spanish and how much time is it in English? And they have a very high percentage of time delivering in Spanish. And the other key item that is very important to note and very important to deliver on is, when do you use English? And when do you actually use English to make sure you ensure understanding and go back and reinforce things that for some students it may have gone right by them in Spanish. And so what I've noticed in their classrooms is they do a super job of using English at the right time strategically to ensure understanding. So with that, I'd like to thank them for this tonight, and I'm sure we'll all turn around and enjoy this. Yes?
You might have already done this. Did you introduce our guests?
Oh, I did not.
You
I will not. Dr. Dellinger, middle school principal. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Oh my God, twice.
Yeah.
And can you please introduce your teacher?
And Jen Blaze
Hi.
is the 7th grade Spanish teacher at the middle school and also the content leader. She coordinates the world language in the middle school for all the teachers.
Great.
We
Thank you so
really,
much.
really
for coming.
appreciate you being here tonight.
Thanks.
It's really
for the
great.
invitation.
Thank you for that introduction. So Stephanie and I are going to give an overview and an update of the Beecher Road School World Language Program. ¿Qué pasa? What's happening? I promise that'll be the only Spanish I'm speaking tonight. We're going to start by sharing with you some work samples of what exactly is going on inside the classroom. So I'm going to start with 6th grade. And in 6th grade, we do a travel unit. And the culminating project is a travel project where the students actually each choose one of the 21 Spanish-speaking countries to research, and they do a presentation on this country. So they write a written script, which is here, and then they accompany it with a Google slideshow or a PowerPoint presentation. And some of the components that are included are packing a suitcase, so they've learned all about how to describe different clothing, and they pack a suitcase based on the season and weather conditions in their country. They also talk about different local foods that they would like to try, and various landmarks in the country that they are visiting. And this, I wanted to mention that this is a great practice for their presentational skills and their oral proficiency, which is our goal. So another 6th grade unit is our health and nutrition unit, and the 6th graders have learned all about various foods, fruits and vegetables, different food groups, and ways to maintain a healthy lifestyle, so physical activities. And this year we were really fortunate to be able to collaborate with Mrs. Atchison, our art teacher. And she was working with the 6th grades on a project for Massaro Farm's 100th birthday. So in our class, the 6th graders created clay plates of food, and then they actually brought these clay plates to Spanish class where they wrote descriptions of the food entirely in Spanish. And Mrs. Atchison created this beautiful display outside the cafeteria. And here's another picture, just a close-up of their plates of food along with their descriptions. So moving on to 5th grade, this is an example of a perfil personal, which is a personal profile. And this is one of our culminating projects for a unit which is based on a visit with an imaginary exchange student. And throughout this unit, the students have learned about how to describe lots of different aspects about themselves, their physical features, their personality, their family members, pets, pastimes that they enjoy, and school subjects. So at the end of this unit, they created this personal profile where they combined everything into this creative piece. They used their iPads to create it on the Notability app, and they were able to be really creative with this and add in different pictures, and most of them put in pictures of themselves, which we took out for the presentation. So And then in 4th grade, we do a unit on animals. So the 4th graders learn all about various animals and their habitats and physical features to describe them. So we collaborated with Mrs. Atchison on this, and in art class, the 4th graders created these imaginary animals, which were made up of several different animals, and then they again brought these to Spanish and wrote a description of it, they labeled them, and they came up with a name for it. So another way for them to really show their creativity. One of our main goals is to really get our students engaged and excited about learning language and language acquisition. So one of the ways that we do this is we try to expand it beyond the classroom. I talked a little bit about the Massaro Farm project, which was a way for collaboration between Spanish, art, and health. So it was just really exciting for our students to see kind of how everything could integrate together and how they could use what they learned in one subject in another subject as well. And with the animal project as well, we did this. And something else that was really interesting that we did in 5th grade was we had a flamenco dancer, Melinda Marquez, visit from New Haven. And she came and did a performance for the 5th graders, which they found really exciting. They were able to actually participate in the flamenco dancing, and they loved listening to the music and hearing stories about it. So we're hoping to be able to do that again this year.
I just wanted to add one more thing, that all of those projects that we showed you and mentioned before, those are the kind of projects that really motivate our students and get them eager about learning world language, and those are the kinds of activities that really create the excitement in our classroom, and of course these other activities that are outside the classroom. So, switch. So just to go on and give you a curriculum update, so we've shared our placement recommendations back in the spring with Amity Middle School. We've also shared our results of the 2016 exit exam, which I will go into further detail in a few minutes what those results look like. We took a look back in June at our world language curriculum. It hadn't been looked at since 2013, so based on the results of the exit exam and looking at our curriculum, we made some revisions, some modifications. We looked at the pacing guide, added some lessons in, took some things out based on the instructional needs of our students. And of course, after all of this, we sat down and looked at the 6th grade exit exam and really evaluated it and reevaluated it and looked at it and looked at our areas of strength and our areas of weakness. So the latest news, some new developments from this past year. Our kindergartners, we have twice a cycle, and now one of those instructional periods, they had a class with Mrs. Marroquin, which was, so they had one class with Senora Roberts and then one class with Mrs. Marroquin where they were getting a Spanish music experience. So the best part of it, they get a native speaker as well. So they were getting a cultural experience just from having Mrs. Marroquin. So they were learning Spanish through music and dance. So that was really wonderful for our students, and they really seemed to be very enthusiastic about it. And the other change that took place this past year is that the 2nd graders were the one grade level where they were only receiving one period per cycle, and this past year they received 2 periods a cycle. So now K-3 is receiving the same amount of Spanish instruction. So now we're able to more thoroughly teach the 2nd grade curriculum now that we have that second time per cycle, which we were missing. So we are very fortunate about that, to have that change. And lastly, just a quick update about the transparent language, which is something that was offered when Dr. Stella was here for 2 years. It was an idea where we wanted to offer language outside of these walls and offer it to the community at the library. Just a quick update, there were 13 users. There was an effort made to try to bring world language to the community outside of the school, and then it was canceled prior to Dr. Stella's departure. So just to take a quick look, because this always comes up every year and I always like to refresh your memory just so you can see how things stand, and I wouldn't change a thing. K-3 is receiving 2 class periods per cycle for a total of 60 minutes, 30 minutes per period. Fourth grade is receiving 3 class periods, so 3 times per cycle, 90 minutes total. And then 5th and 6th graders are receiving 4 days of instruction for a total of 120 minutes per cycle. So we are so fortunate that we have a schedule that we can maintain like this, because this community really values world language education. And the fact that we devote this much instructional time to world language here at Beecher is just absolutely wonderful, and not all school districts can say that. So I just want to say I'm really appreciative of that.
It's a duck from the Sorrow Farm.
Goes with the whole theme, the animal. So, like I said, this community really values world language, and we are fortunate. So, I would not recommend touching this. Please don't touch it.
Quick question, the kindergarten, the
Yes.
music is 1 cycle, and the music and Spanish is 1 cycle. It's
Right,
not
so-
3 total.
Right, it's a total of 2, but at that age,
Yeah.
it's actually really perfect in the way it's set up. Because at that age, their attention span, as you probably know, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes max, and then on to a new activity. So that's what the schedule presently looks like. So, on to our favorite, the 6th grade exit exam. I did not bring sample questions this year, so I won't make you participate, because I think you're all familiar with it after all my years of presenting it. But just a reminder, no test for you tonight. So just a reminder of why it's in place. We use it to monitor and evaluate the progress of our students, and we really use it to inform our instruction. We really look at that data, and we try to improve our instruction year after year based on our strengths, our weaknesses, and we take a look at the whole test itself, the 4 components, which are listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And just a reminder that all of this is based on the national standards as well as our curriculum. So let's take a look. All right, so our areas of strength, we'll start with that. So before I start, just a reminder, we are assessing our students based on a novice low, novice mid, novice high scale. So it's just really important to keep in mind that all of our students are at the novice level. They are all beginners. Our goal is to provide a solid foundation. We want them comfortable speaking the language. We want them confident in themselves, so that when they go to Amity Middle School, they feel good about learning the language and they're confident enough to participate, and they have a solid foundation. So we want them proficient. They're not going to be fluent, but we hope that they are proficient so that they can perform really well at the Amity Middle School and beyond. So take a look at the results up here. You can see that this is an area of strength. We've got 95% of our students performing at novice mid or higher, which is where we want them. We want them performing at novice mid or higher. So we're pleased with this area. So listening is one of our strengths. And another area of strength is reading. We've got 96% performing novice mid or higher, and only a small 4% at novice low, which is excellent in terms of data. So we're doing really well in the area of listening and reading. If you take a look at the speaking component, this is the speaking component and the writing component are the 2 most challenging parts of the exit exam. We do have 88% still performing novice mid or higher, which is a good number. We would like to see that number increase, because we do have 12% that are at the novice low, so we would like to see that increase. So we do plan on incorporating even more oral activities into our instructional time. And lastly, the writing component. If you take a look at that, we've got 86% scoring novice mid or higher, which again is a good number, but we'd like to see that number even increase more, because we do have 14% at the novice low. So we do plan on incorporating even more writing activities as well. Just some ways we're planning to do that. When students first come into my classroom, there's something on the board called an Hazlo Ahora, which is a do it now activity. So as soon as they come in, they see questions or some sort of activity on the board, and they are writing. They are providing a written response first, and then we discuss it orally. So they're getting more speaking, more writing, just by implementing something as simple as coming in and having one of these activities on the board. We do have Some other plans concerning writing. So I'll mention that in a minute. So our areas of strength are listening and reading, as I mentioned. Areas we're looking to improve, speaking and writing. And I do want to say that the exit exam is a useful tool. It does provide a valuable assessment for us, and it does inform our instruction. So, our future plans. We're going to continue to review all 4 sections. Our plan is, which I was about to mention before, is that we are going to revise the 6th grade writing assessment because we looked at it and it's very heavy on the content in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and we think it needs more 6th grade content. So we're going to take a look at that. And then we have decided that we would like to create an assessment, which we already have that plan in place, an assessment for 5th grade. So we can give a pre and a post test in writing only in 5th grade, and then see how they perform on the assessment in 6th grade. So now we're going to compare 5th grade to 6th grade, the same cohort of students, just to get a different look at the data and see how that impacts the scores and if our changes and modifications in our instruction make a difference. So we're going to take it from a different angle this time and see how that works. We're also going to continue to share our test results and any information we can with Amity Middle School. I am usually in contact with Senora Blaze quite often during the school year. I like to check in and find out how the Woodbridge students are performing. I have had children come back just informally, no formal interview of any kind, but informally come back and just say that they feel good about Spanish and they're enjoying Spanish and they're doing really well at the Amity Middle School. So we are getting positive feedback. So we'll continue to make additional test modifications where we need to, including any special education students, 504 students, or any of our students who are new to Beecher, which this exit exam can be completely overwhelming for them. So definite modifications are always made there. And we of course want to continue to challenge our advanced students. One of our future plans is always to continue our connection with Amity Middle School, make sure we're keeping up our communication to find out what's happening with our students once they leave here. And lastly, we really want to continue to look for ways that we can enhance their cultural experiences and their world language experiences outside.
Enjoy the presentation. I always learn something, although I didn't pass this year's test. But the thing that I think is, every time you come, you tell us about things you're changing, although you don't want us to mess with the times. I got that. But the other things that you're changing, they seem to make perfect sense. You're working with, a lot of different students, kids coming in. That must be a challenge too. That a 6th grader who's never spoken a word of Spanish, everybody else. But the way that you continually look at the curriculum, using that test and other things, I'm just very impressed by your constant reevaluation of what you're doing. I think that's critical. It's great. Thank you so much.
So I have a question and then a comment. So my first question is, you kind of touched on it at the end. For the kids that are novice low, are those kids who are either came into Beecher, do you know, have you looked at that group and figured out sort of,
yes,
is it the student population or is it?
It tends to be those students who are new to Beecher, or the newest one is that some students who were ELL and have exited from the program and now they're in Spanish class. That's an additional challenge. So those kids are coming in a little bit behind. So it's multiple factors, but most of the time it's that population.
And then I'm going to echo what Margaret said. I don't always give a lot of praise, but that was an amazing presentation.
Thank you.
And I would ask that other presentations that we get should talk to you beforehand. Because I think, honestly,
Good job of giving me what work.
No, it was summarize what's going on. It was what changes you're trying to implement, and moving forward, it was exactly what I've wanted for 6 years. So thank you.
I can tell you, as the board, what also helped is we had a plan in place anyway because I've done this multiple times, but it was also helpful to have ahead of time what you wanted to know specifically. So we had that list which helped guide everything. So that was a great idea on your part too. give that ahead of time. So, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie and Emily. Great job. So as we transition to our next report, to our Smarter Balance and CMT testing report, I just would like to emphasize that this is definitely a high-level report, so we're looking at this from a very high-level and global perspective. I also want to emphasize that this is only one measure, Smarter Balance, CMT Science, one measure in a variety of qualitative and quantitative measures that we use to assess student growth, student learning, and so it's important to remember that. I also would like to say, though, even though that we're keeping that in mind, I would like to just congratulate the entire team at Beecher. That's parent support, outstanding kids, and great leadership by the principals and curriculum leaders. We have some of them here today. We have Karen, science leader, Teresa, one of our literacy specialists, and just a fabulous teaching staff, because what is seen here today is, and again, it's one measure, but it's growth. And that's what we want to see. We want to see student growth. That's what it's all about. With that being said, I'd like to thank Lisa for doing this, because this is another one of those things. In a larger district, there'd be someone else in some ivory tower who was the district test coordinator. But Lisa gets to wear that hat tonight and all year round. So thank you, Lisa, for doing this, and it's all yours.
Kind of wish I went before the Spanish
A little bit more exciting than SBAC results.
As far as been said.
So we're gonna, as Bob said, we're gonna just give you a little bit of background on what's assessed in the SBACs, just to remind you really quickly. We're also gonna share some of our results with you, and then we're gonna sort of share some of our steps for next steps. So as you know, the Smarter Balance is an assessment that is administered to students in grades 3 through 8. It is a computer adaptive test, so that means that the questions change depending upon the student responses, and the level of difficulty will vary depending upon those responses. It is also part of our accountability report that the state will give to us later on in the year. This is one part of that. And it is also, as Bob said, it's really just one snapshot that we look at for student achievement. And even the state website talks about how this should just be used as one measure in conjunction with lots of other school-based measures like STAR, like RTCs, like all of our other assessments that we use within our student population. This is a little background information on what is assessed in English language arts. So as you read that list, you'll notice that we're really expecting our students to read and comprehend a variety of text. We're also really expecting them to write for a variety of purposes and analyze and present information. I always like to show you a sample question, just so that you can see what our kids see. So you'll notice that the questions are often posed like this to the students in a split screen format. So on the left-hand side, there's a lot of times a passage that they have to read. A lot of times they have to scroll through to get to the bottom of that passage. The arrows, they're hard to see. These arrows up here, there's a lot of tools and buttons on the screen for the kids. So these arrows over here, that allows them to expand the text on this side of the screen, so it gets bigger, and then they can shrink it again. And then just in terms of the questions, this question you'll notice is a paragraph that they have to actually click within to find the answer. And then the second question is a open-ended question that the students have to type their response in. So there's a lot that they have to do within that one question. This is what is expected of them in mathematics. So again, you'll notice that there is a great emphasis on conceptual understanding and problem solving. And one of the things that we've actually done at Beecher this year is, in the past we had a separate problem solving assessment, and we decided that we're going to integrate more problem solving questions into each of our unit assessments, just so that the students have less assessments, so they're no longer taking a problem solving assessment fall, winter, spring. It's more embedded in, but also just so they have more exposure to some more problem solving questions. So here's a sample math question. Again, just all the tools on the screen. In addition to the language, even the words numerical expression, just exposing students to sort of that kind of language. Just all the tools on the screen that they have to interact with. There's a tool, they don't need it for this one, but for some questions they have to write a fraction, they have to use the parentheses, all of the operations are up here. So we just like to share this with the students so that they know sort of what they're looking at before they take the test. The SBACs, much like the CMTs, are reported out as achievement levels. And this really gives us a nice big picture look at how our students are doing. Also similar to the CMTs, we receive a scale score. And the scale score is a more precise measure. In a second, you'll see a slide with the achievement levels and the bands that fall, the scale score bands that fall within each achievement level. So the achievement levels are a way that we report out, but they're not as precise as reporting out a scale score. So in a second, you're going to see the achievement level report, but you're also going to see the vertical scale score. So here are our Ela results. Jump over again. So what we did is we actually, because we now have 2 years worth of data, we were able to do a little bit of a cohort. So these were our students who were 3rd graders 2 years ago, 4th graders last year. They are our current 5th graders. So it's all color coded that way, the blue and then the same there and the same there. So you'll notice some nice growth going. If you look both the cohorts and if you look just at the grade level. So here's the 3rd grade students 2 years ago and the 3rd grade students last year. There's some really nice growth going both ways. Trying to give you a minute to take it all in. So this is what I was referring to before. So the achievement levels are on the left-hand side, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then the scale scores that land within each achievement level is there. So if you notice just at the level 4, grade 3, that first top left box, that's a 133-point spread within level 4, which is why we report out level 3 and 4. But looking at the vertical scale scores just gives you a more precise look at how the students are doing. And it's also a more precise way to look at growth of student groups, growth of classes, growth of individual grade levels, and our growth overall as a school. And here are our mathematics scores. Again, the cohorts are color-coded for you so you can see them.
Out of curiosity, so 3rd to 4th grade, the 3rd grade cohort was 75.8 and then went down to a 65.6, but their average vertical score went up. So it's just that average vertical score went up, but the band that's in is a lower band. Is that
right.
right?
So it's funny, we were just talking about that earlier today. Right, so that's why it gets a little tricky, because you could have a student that falls within can you see?
Yeah.
You could have a student that falls within this level 3 and 4 band, but they could be like on the lower or the higher end of it. So that could explain the discrepancy.
Can you go back one? Just-
Yes, I definitely can, sorry.
Just out of curiosity, do we know like participation in the 3rd grade versus when they were in 4th grade? Was there a same level of participation, less people participated? I know you have people opted out and other things. Do you know if the N for each of those groups is similar or?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
We did keep record last year of the grade levels that did opt out. And there was record from 2 years ago, so I could look at that. I don't think the numbers were that dramatic in those particular grade levels per se.
And did we get our participation level?
That's coming up, and
That's
so,
coming up.
but
My only other question is,
Jump ahead, Carrie.
I know we, as a board, won't ever see classroom level, but I assume behind the scenes you are looking classroom by classroom because there is that's a significant fall off from 3rd to 4th, and it's either across the board or obviously could be some classes that have more time getting through some of the topics.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
That is definitely something that we are doing.
Okay.
and our PD that we just started talking about this at our most recent. We just started talking about this at our most recent PD. We happened to be with the 4th grade, and we were open and said, if you're going to see this, it's going to be presented to the board. Let's take a look, and then we'll start digging a little deeper with that, because this is a big picture, and so we can start going further with that and saying, okay, what are the claims that we've done really well in, and looking at by class, by claim, so we can dig a little further.
So here's the scale score, so you can see, and again, in that top left box, level 4, grade 3, that's 120 point spread. So just driving that point home that the scale scores are just a little bit more precise, a lot more precise.
Lisa, may I jump in that when parents, when you get your individual reports, it will have scale scores on there, not just achievement level.
It does. So here is our overall results, which is a really nice look at how we did as a school, as a district. And you'll notice on the left is 2015, on the right is 2016, and you can see that from 2015 our ELA scores were 73.6% at or above, level 3 or 4. In 2016 we moved up to 80.1, and just within our district reference group we went from 9 out of 21 to 5 out of 21, and within the state 30 to 15. Same with math, almost a little over a 10% increase, 61.1%. 71.2%, 12 in our district reference group to 5, and then 34 to 17.
So when we're looking at 188, like how do we, so we're a K through 6 school, so we're tested, so we just compared against 3 through 6.
That's 169 districts plus all the magnets and other schools that end up testing on this test. So,
But if we compare to say Brantford's a K through 12, how do they get? What's their overall result? Is it a 3 through 12 average, or is that? Do you know what I mean? Am I not?
We're compared.
First of all, out of the 21, that's just our DIRG. So it's a combined score for all the grades. So yeah. So for instance, in Brantford, it'd be testing grades 3 through 8. 3 through 8 would be combined in that because that's the total testing population. We only have 3 through 6. So you're right. So
I didn't know what the reference was. Okay.
And our accountability report, which comes out in the winter, that will give us our high needs students results. I know that's one of the things that we are always interested in reading about. And just out today, to answer Carrie's question, literally I think at 8 a.m. I got an email saying your participation rates are online. So I couldn't put them in here, but I have them, our ELA participation rate and our math participation rate. We hit the 95% mark, which is what we wanted to do. Yes, we're quite excited about
just
that. So
on
95.
just 95.6.
That can go either way.
It was really close. I mean, it was 95.6, so we were super, super close.
95.1, that would be fun.
But we made
95.
And that's our overall participation rate, just to clarify.
I can just add in real quickly that we provided the DIRG and the Connecticut, where are we in relation? But that we did that because people are generally interested in that usually. Maybe are, maybe aren't, I don't know. But But the important part is the growth part there. The state average of growth for a district is basically on about a 3 to 4% growth from 15 to 16, and ours is 6.5 in language arts and 10 in math. So that's the key thing, the growth that our kids are demonstrating, and that's where the emphasis is. Because those other numbers, 5 out of 21, it's a horse race. That could fluctuate in a year. So, but it's the growth that is the most important.
Can we find out about the achievement gap statistics as a result of that?
That's going to come out with the accountability report, which, that's okay. It's confusing. The two different reports get a little mixed up, but the accountability report includes that information, and that comes out later. So just a quick foray into science CMTs, and we're very fortunate to have Dr. Stedinger here with us. This is some of the content that is covered within the science CMTs. You know that grade 5 students are the only ones who take this. Maybe you don't know, now you do. Grade 5 students are the only ones who take this.
In our school.
In our school, right. In other grades, it does go, grade 8 students take it as well. Here's a sample CMT, science CMT question. And then here is an inquiry-based question. And this question is actually based on an assessment that the students complete in 3rd grade, an experiment that the students complete in 3rd grade. And the students are actually given assured experiences. They have experiments that they have to complete prior to taking the science CMTs. They have one in 3rd grade, one in 4th grade, and one in 5th grade. And this question is based on the 3rd grade experiment. And we are very pleased to share our science CMT results. Really great jump, 81% to 94%. And again, the scale score went up as well, 282 to 27. So it's a really significant increase, one of the highest in the states.
So it's the highest district 5th grade score in the state, and because the school is the district in Woodbridge. There's a few schools that have a little higher than Bowling, but when you have a district average in any other district, so we're very proud of. Karen, I believe that's our highest score ever by several points.
Well, by 2. Yes.
Or 2.
Depends on the cohort.
Right.
To a great
That's
extent.
right. Different group of kids.
Yeah.
Just some anecdotal feedback from some of our teachers. The first quote is actually shared by an intermediate teacher who actually was speaking to Gina one day and just shared this piece of information that just she feels every year her students are just more and more prepared, especially in math. They're coming in, they're able to dive into higher level content quicker. They don't have to do as much review. And then one of our 6th grade teachers was actually at the middle school, and a 7th grade teacher approached her and shared this with her, that the students coming in have just very impressive skills, and their language arts, their abilities within language arts are just really quite amazing. So some of our next steps. One of the things that you know that we focus on here at Beecher is workshop teaching, and that really includes short focused lessons, a lot of student-directed learning, and a lot of discourse, and that's something that we are going to continue to focus on. Also, multiple measures of, as I mentioned previously, as Bob has mentioned, that we really like to use multiple measures to assess our students, not just SBAGs, but we use STARS like Universal Screen, and then we use classroom assessments to really dig in to know how our students are doing. And those are two really big pieces of what we do here that allow us to make sure that we're really working closely with all of our students and supporting them and their growth. In terms of the tools, I show you those sample questions because that is a good reason to really share with the students some of the tools that are embedded within the assessment, the SBAC that they take, and just giving them exposure to that. So while you can't teach to a test that is based on Common Core standards, what we can do is support our students by sharing with them some of those tools and how to approach a question like that, what to do when you see a question that has a fraction. Doesn't mean you have to use it. It means you may have to, but you don't. Making sure that they understand that we still actually give them pencil and paper when they're taking their math assessment, so that they have that as a way to solve problems. So we do a lot of that work throughout the year. That's it. Any questions?
I just wanted to say that was, it was enough information. It was just the right amount of information. It was, very well put together, and I always learn a lot.
It's always
That
easy to
always
express
helps.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you. The science scores are because all of us had 5th graders last year.
Well, thank you.
Wow.
I think it had a little bit to do with their teachers, too.
Just a little.
I will say, I think it's wonderful that we continue to support the dedicated science curriculum. I think these kids come out of each year with tremendous basic understanding of science that serves them well going forward.
You're still up, I think, Bob.
Okay.
Parent survey?
So Lisa was feeling kind of wondering about following the world language. Now I've got to follow the two of them. And I didn't even bother doing a presentation because I thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Great job. So good to see. We'll keep the 7th grade, we decided, after seeing the scores.
Yeah, I like that, huh?
We'll keep them up there.
You got them for 2 years. So this is just simply a memo to Board of Education members regarding our Panorama Survey follow-up. We've had some discussion in previous meetings, really initiated from the June presentation that was done by James Crawford. And you'll remember that a lot of the conversation we had was taking a look at the question, so what happens if we included all of our neutral respondents in our survey analysis? So what this little follow-up is meant to do, and I would like to thank our board chair, who I think probably could get a part-time job as a data analyzer. I think she did a very nice job. So she crunched the numbers, but she was a great, she just jumped in there. But we've taken a look at just basically looking at the two together and then moving forward with some observations regarding responses of all respondents, including the neutral ones in the denominator, which is the basis for most of this summary. So, just to
Keep smiling.
I said thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we haven't gotten to the end of it yet. So the key points, we just want to make sure that we understand that the surveys from the 2 years were consistent, the same questions were used, the same response choices were used. A reminder that we do use the survey data to help us at the school level in setting and measuring goals for the evaluation process for teachers and for other purposes as well, as we're measuring our continuous improvement in various areas. The distribution of the 2016 favorable responses, which is always combining agree and strongly agree. It's different, a little different than when we use the all respondents. The two different ones are a little different, but they're certainly comparable, is what I guess I'm trying to say. And you'll see in the chart, board members, in column A and column B, you'll see column A, the neutral is in the denominator in the way we analyze the percentage distribution here. How many, because there's 49 questions on the survey, you can see the distribution. 12 questions came out in the 90s, 25 in the 80s, and so on and so forth. That's with the neutral in the denominator. All respondents are included. The column B is the panorama version, you remember from June, where only the non-neutral respondents are included at all. The neutrals are not in there at all. So you'll see how that shakes out. The interesting thing is that the three questions with the greatest growth in favorable responses were exactly the same in whether you measured it through the A process or the B process. It was the questions on healthy food, the clean and well-maintained facilities, and the report card communication. So those were still the three areas of greatest growth in favorable responses, regardless of how you measured it. The last 2 pages of this memo basically is all based on the data from column A, which is all respondents. And so it just gives you, the top 3 and the bottom 3. What were the highest favorable and the lowest favorable responses for 2016? Again, using all respondents. The next chart is what was the greatest percent change in favorable versus the least percent change in favorable. Again, using all respondents in the denominator. And what I'd like to mention is even the ones with the least percent change are still all strong scores. I mean, they're all strong, favorable scores in terms of how people view concerns and welcoming and transportation. Yeah, there's always room for growth, but it's not like I've seen surveys in different places in the 40s and 50s. So it's still strong. And if you go on to the last part, just a couple of just tidbits here. Tracking back to what were some of the areas that we were looking at. Past goals, differentiation with the past goal, communication about math instruction. We took a look at some of the questions that we sort of used to measure that, and 6% growth in differentiation. Math instruction, 13% or 9% growth in questions that related to that. So certainly past goals, there still is continuous improvement and growth in that. And then the ever important question. I would recommend Beecher Road School to a friend seeking a school for their child. And again, very high results in 2014, 88%, and even higher in 2016 at 92%. So basic recommendations moving forward. We obviously want to continue school-wide continuous improvement efforts in areas such as math, differentiation, food service, things like that. So those are things that are continually on our radar. They will be there in the future for sure. But we have looked at this data, and we do look at, from the school level, in terms of the school administration, looking at the question that's on the survey, my child's report card clearly communicates what my child is learning. That's really the one we're going to focus on this year. We want to make sure that parents understand it, they get good communication about it, that there's no questions about it. There's a lot of neutral responses behind that question. That we want to make sure that we answer questions. Sometimes people answer neutral because they're not sure what to say because they don't understand it. So we want to address that. So that's really where our primary focus is going to be moving forward. One of the other things that we recommend internally as we look at this is we want to make sure we're providing information to parents on areas that there is high neutrality. So I've already indicated one of those, which is the report card. The other area, honestly, board members, is about school board, and I don't think people know enough about the school board and what we do as leaders as a school board, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're trying to put out, and you folks have made the move to put your faces on the next superintendent's parent update and a little bit about yourself, and introduced you at the open house and things like that. So getting that out there, I think, will help to hopefully provide, or at least provide, an avenue for communication for parents. We also obviously want to look at Panorama at what other options they can give us. There was a question posed, and I think it's a good one because I've seen it change in other districts. Instead of having all these 49 questions by themselves, let's group the questions where they make sense. There's certain questions that make sense to be considered to be about instructional leadership or instruction in the classroom, or certain questions that really come in under a bucket of communication, or about administration, or about district leadership, or wherever it might be. So trying to group those questions, and Panorama is able to do that for us, and we'll explore that with them. And then lastly, we've had a lot of conversations and a lot of spirited debate about how many options should there be, neutral or not, NA or not, 4.5 points, so on and so forth. And so we want to explore the options of what we should do in the future regarding this survey. In terms of how we would report that out. We may not change it at all. We may change it. We want to look at options, and so to make sure that we're looking at this in the most beneficial way and giving us the best data as possible. So that sort of is a follow-up summary of I think addressing some of the things we've talked a little bit about.
And I do think what you said, when we look at some of these things, we're looking at, 92%, we're looking at very high agreement levels to, questions that, are good about our schools. So I think we have to recognize that we do really, really, really well. We had we had a much better response rate, and we did very well. And in no way does that mitigate the fact that we're looking at, areas where, we went down instead of up, or areas where, we can see that people maybe didn't understand the question or had, concerns about the particular area. So I think the recommendation plan, that looks great to me. I mean, I think that addresses all the areas, what we're doing well, what we're doing badly, what we should continue doing, so I think that's great. Were there any other questions on the parent survey?
What was the participation, did you mention that?
It was like 282 or something this year, and it was like one
It was more than double, I think.
40 or something before. It really was.
It almost doubled.
Yeah. And there were some problems with the 14 when it got outlaid. There was a code issue and stuff, but still, considering we have 800 kids in the school, which is about how many families do we have?
500.
Is it like 500? Okay, 63.
560. I was
Okay.
536. I had the numbers
All right.
backwards in my head.
Pardon?
Marcia said 563, and I was going to say 536. I had the numbers backwards in my head.
Okay, I think that's it for Bob, unless you have anything else? No?
You heard that from me?
Okay. All right, facilities, Karen.
Did have a meeting. As I sat here looking at the agenda, I wasn't having my minutes yet, but I will do. But I'll just give you a brief update. We had a meeting on September 15th, just last Thursday. And we had an update on the building upgrade, which is just getting closed out. Hopefully by the end of September, all the remaining pending issues and adjustments. We got an update on the grounds priorities and what we're looking to address. And that's pretty much the biggest one was the north paving, which is the thing we're looking to do as soon as we can, which we realize may not be this year, but we're going to try. We got an update on the completion of the repair and remediation associated with pipe burst. And we talked a little bit about Tours for Schools. Gave us an update on what we're talking about. And so the sustainability initiatives and the informational tools that we do have in the school about solar panels and microturbine energy generation, and looking forward to actually comparing what we're saving. So we're looking forward to those numbers when they come. And our next meeting will be October 20th.
Any questions for Karen? Okay.
Just, when we say pipe burst, we're referring to the condensation of the
Leaking
pipe.
fluid.
Yeah.
No pipe bursting.
Yeah.
I was like,
I know, wait a minute, yeah.
I was in Aruba during that time.
Got it. This
Yeah.
I didn't mean to use
I'm
a
afraid.
technical term.
That's okay. I just want to make sure.
Pipe,
Yeah.
we'll call it.
Yeah.
The weeping.
Okay, finance? Anything to add?
Nothing really to add other than I hope you noticed those are the nicest minutes we've had in
Very
probably
impressive.
the 7 years I've been on the finance committee. Thank you, Al Pulo, for doing them.
Careful, I'm secretary.
Okay, and policy, Lisa?
We will be meeting next Wednesday.
Yep.
Or say next month.
And then CABE liaison report. And if you know, all knows we're going to do the CABE update as part of our minutes now.
Yeah, and then I would just,
Lisa gets this because she's a liaison, the rest of us.
you can see how exciting it is, a lot of
Well,
dates.
a lot of upcoming things.
But I would highlight, I'm planning to attend the session on legal issues in October. And then also, as you all know, the big Connecticut education funding decision came down a couple weeks ago. And if you haven't already, I would encourage you to, there's a very useful webinar on CABE's website where they provide a great overview of what the decision covers and where they think it's going to go. It's something that will presumably have some pretty significant effects on education, but not tomorrow.
Okay, upcoming meetings. This is actually not correct, the accountability update, that we get much later. Okay, so I was confused. You probably noticed that last week when I kept talking to you about the accountability thing and you go SBAC and then, yeah, so. All right, so then the other is the status of the entry plan. So I don't know if people have, I mean, we all have a copy of the entry plan. If people have specific things they're looking for, you're gonna.
I just was going to describe a little bit about how I'm looking to try to approach that. And I'd be glad to hear any thoughts, but I'm looking at trying to bring to you some October observations, some things that I'm catching, some trends, and I'm looking at those in a variety of, I'll call them buckets again, or different categories. For instance, under the area of vision, vision of the school and district, under curriculum and instruction, under data and student achievement, under support services, under programs, resources, things like that. And those exact titles may change a little bit, but I'm looking at trying to just take some broad categories because ultimately that's what we'll be looking at as we move forward. How do we move forward in curriculum and instruction? Once we get to January, we're really starting to really craft a look at board goals and direction for the future that you're charging me with school improvement. I would see it under some of those same categories. So that's how I'm looking at it initially. But I'm certainly open to questions on that or other thoughts as you may be led.
Yeah, I mean, that format sounds great. Let us know what you think so far. Okay. All right. And I don't know if I don't think we have anything else for the October meeting now.
Can I just mention that originally this was topic presentations,
right.
And we had talked about, and this one out there, but,
right.
But this one, I don't know if
the workshop model, that would be great.
But I would like to have a little more direction from the board about in terms of workshop, what aspects about that.
From my perspective, what it is really how is it actually done? Like, what does it look like in the classroom? So we have a better understanding of what actually goes on. Some of what you said.
I'm going to gather you all on the carpet for a mini
I was going to say, because you did it at the open house, so maybe whoever did it can come in and do it for us and just give us an overview of how that process looks in the classroom. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know if other people.
Reader-writer workshop. Reader-writer workshop. Just reader.
Well, or we're doing workshop now in math as well.
The structure is the same no matter what. So we could probably do a reading workshop because we're sitting in the library, so we could probably just do that. And we could certainly run through the structure. We could do some sample of what that would look like. That's easy for us to do.
Yeah.
That answers one question for the structure.
Are we doing it in maths now?
We are working towards it. So remember that it's 10 years in the making for reading and writing. And we've got some hybrid models. We've got some places where people are feeling free enough to venture out into that structure. And I'm not sure this is the place, but I'll certainly talk a little bit more about it next time. In reading, we have Just Right books. Lots of them, and they are organized. And so in math, we continuously look to make sure we have just right math for different students. That isn't as easy, and I'll be honest with that. So we have to keep looking and searching and sharing, and we're doing that. But just right books level, and we have those levels, and so we've even talked about letting people venture out and try and come back together and doing some lab sites, and we've done a few like we did with reading and writing workshop. So we can do that without a problem.
Could you maybe just give briefly where the workshop model developed and what data there is to support that the workshop model is the right thing to advance students?
Mm-hmm. And say that last thing again.
And what data supports the idea that workshop model is the right direction to be going?
I just saw it on the SBAC, but no. No, absolutely, we can do that. You got it right now? Just the structure, some data support, and words.
Anyone else?
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
What happened?
I was just thinking, do you want to have just somebody do a 5-point bullet point discussion about the funding?
Is he Jeff?
Yeah. Funding
for us?
case. No,
sorry.
like
The court, the ruling that just came out, right?
Do you have any questions?
No, I just thought maybe just give an overview.
Yeah, no,
to
it's
the board
something for us
and
to keep
the
our eye
public.
on, and it's also an opportunity for us to get involved in what's going to follow through our participation in CAVE or otherwise.
Just a high level, what's it all, what was it all about? What was the first,
Yeah.
we know it's already been, challenged, and so it's going to be interesting.
It's many years in the making. So
Yes.
Many years before most of us were even on the board. They started
Right.
this soon, so it'd be interesting to get a brief background.
So you'd like to have that?
Is that something
Who's-
Lisa you'd be interested in putting together?
I was looking at Lisa, I was looking at you.
I can tell you right now a fair amount about it, but it sort of depends. I mean, as I said, I think this CAVE webinar is an excellent resource. It's their lawyers explain, and CAVE is a founding member of the coalition that is the plaintiff in this case.
So maybe it will be our homework to watch the
I
video.
I would certainly
And we
encourage
can
it.
put it on the agenda as a
If
discussion.
you could just send the link maybe to Marsha or to all,
I would
or
do
just
that.
send it out, that'd be great.
You know, and
Maybe you
As a
and I can work
superintendent.
together and just do like 5 bullet points, just so people, for the public and people who can't go watch it or whatever.
absolutely.
Just give an overview so we all at least have a base level of knowledge about it.
So I hear you're giving the superintendent a break, that the 2 board members are going to put this together?
We're not using that.
These are lawyers.
All right.
No, there was. It was
Paper.
resolved.
Okay.
It was resolved.
Public comment. Did somebody ask a question?
I did.
I told you. I was worried. What? Oh, just you?
It's all in the consent board.
Okay.
Get it on.
Oh, no public comment. All right, that takes us to adjournment.
Well, no.
Oh,
Executive session.
Executive session? Do we have an executive session?
Superintendent, yeah, I'm
Oh.
going to pass something out.
Yes, I move we move
Oh.
into executive session.
All those in favor? Okay.